What's up, everybody? Welcome back to On The Reel. We've got an awesome guest in the house today, and we're doing something a little different. If you haven't noticed, we're starting to film our stuff. So welcome to our new space and our camera build table and everything. But we have a great guest in today. His name is Jacen Sievers, local director of photography here in Phoenix, Arizona. Killer work for a lot of different clients. Welcome, dude.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, welcome.
So tell us a little bit about you. Tell the people who you are, what you do, what you like, all that stuff.
Yeah, you already gave me a pretty good introduction, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a Phoenix-based director of photography, cinematographer. I don't really care about titles like that so much. But, you know, I've been doing this now for a little over 10 years.
Nice.
Wasn't born in Phoenix, but I grew up here.
Where were you born?
I was born in New Mexico.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
New Mexico.
What brought you down here? School or family or?
I was a baby. Well,
I had no choice.
I was born in New Mexico. My parents had grown up in Arizona, but then they both, like in their 20s, moved to New Mexico, did stuff. My dad got a job in Colorado, so we moved to Denver. I was there for about the first 8 years of my life, and then my mom hated the cold. She hated snow. So it was like, all right, time to move back to Arizona.
Hottest place in the country.
Yeah, I know, and I never forgave her for it.
Sure.
I love the snow,
Yeah,
but
100%.
Hate the heat.
Yeah. Well, Flagstaff isn't far away. You get the, nice little break up there. Actually, I just went up there a couple days ago. It's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, I was up there for a job earlier this week, and then, hoping to just go up there and, like, snowboard or something here soon if I have the time.
100%. Yeah, Brandon just got a new snowboard. I got some new skis. We hit.
Yeah, you might have saw it when you walked in. It was on display right when you walked in.
Yeah, he's like, everyone look at my board.
Yes.
I just bring my skis in and just put them right next to each other.
I can't wait for Thursday. We're gonna go shred Thursday.
So we went to Sunrise last week?
Yeah, last week.
And it was snowing. And it was no one there. It was insane. It was awesome.
No one was there, really?
No, it was like,
I
guess
probably
Thursday.
40, 50 people.
Yeah. It was our own personal mountain. And they had most of the lifts open. There was only like 10 lifts out of the 50 that weren't. So
yeah,
we had full rain, and I mean, no icy spots, all powder. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Arizona doesn't get that a lot, so
no, yeah,
we had to take advantage.
Honestly, it's been a while since I've been out. Like the last time I went was honestly like 4 years ago.
Oh, really?
It was like, do you remember that year where like it was like snowing all the way into like April?
Yep.
Like I was going a lot that year, and it was awesome. Like it was so weird because everyone's like, this is like not normal. Like a lot of snow days. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But
was that the same year that you got I don't know where you went. I think you just went up north, but you didn't even get like 20 minutes up and it started snowing.
Oh yeah, no, you couldn't. They wouldn't let anybody up without chains. And luckily I had an Audi where it's all drive, and they're like, okay, you can go. So
yeah, but
luckily I got up there. I would have been screwed.
It was when it snowed in the valley, and you got the video of the cactuses.
Oh yeah, the video of the cactuses, and then Four Peaks was all covered and stuff. That was wild.
Yeah, and then the news channel wanted to buy it.
Oh, that's right. And I did the video through Sedona.
Yeah,
out the car. I just took a video of what my family was driving.
Today Show, wasn't it?
It was on the Today Show. Yeah, they like bought it. I never got any money. Those guys screwed me. They're like, yeah, we're gonna pay you for every time it airs. Yeah, right. Assholes.
You gotta work with the contracts, man.
I know. I got screwed on that one. They got some good stuff on my iPhone.
I'm now your agent.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just keep doing that. Anyway, so back to this stuff. But so what got you started? Did you go to school for this? Did you just love photography in the beginning? Did your family give you a camera? How did that work out?
Yeah. I actually started like really young without realizing it. When I was like a child growing up, I would have my toys and I would play with them and take pictures on my parents' point and shoot cameras. And then we would like go get those developed at like a Walmart back when you could like take point and shoots and disposables to a Walmart and drop it in a box would develop it for you. And then I would like take those out and I would like put them on a board, like storyboards. I mean, I was 7 or 8 at the time. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just doing this because I was like, oh, look, like here's these weird, crazy stories that a child comes up with. And I want to show my parents like, look, this and this and this and this happened. Right. So I guess they took note of that in 1 year. They like got me a program called Lego Studios.
Lego Studios?
Lego Studios.
Yes.
It was like
on a computer?
Yeah, it was like it was like 2000s, I think.
That's legit.
It had like a little Lego Steven Spielberg it was like in conjunction with him, or I don't know.
Oh, that's
like I was
sick. I
super
did
into
not know
Legos
that.
as a
That's really
kid.
cool. Yeah, totally.
My parents thought that I would do this stuff, and it was like a program that lets you do stop motion things. So it had like a little webcam that was like made out of Lego that you could connect to your computer, and you could animate these videos. And so that's like what I did. I was not cool in school.
He's just like,
like
stop motion for
yeah,
days.
I would just like want to come home and just like create these stop motion things, you know?
Legit. Do you still have access to those files? Do you still?
No, I have no idea what happened. Well, so I stopped making it because like at the time, this was like, I did that for like a good year, maybe 2.
Okay.
And then Windows 98 went away and it became Windows like 2000 or whatever. The Windows that nobody talks about. And our computer updated to it, which killed the program. The program wouldn't work. And like, I guess in hindsight, we could have just reverted the computer back to 98. But again, like at this time, I was maybe 10.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, I didn't care. I was just like, okay. And I would just go outside and ride bikes or do something else instead. So, you know, and then that was it. And then, you know, fast forward to like, I make it to middle school and internet's a thing now. Like YouTube, like early YouTube was a thing. It was really Newgrounds at the time. I remember. And
all the guys that are big now were started at that time.
Exactly. Yeah. Like and I was just like super into it.
2007 is when they started popping off.
Yeah.
Like early YouTube, I remember was like revolutionary to me because like back in the day, if you were making something, you would use like Adobe Flash. So you would make Flash files. You would upload Flash files to the internet.
Oh my God.
You could program into your Flash files to have like a replay button. So you could like program that, and then someone could watch your video over from the start rather than reloading the whole page. The
whole thing.
Which back in the days of dial-up and stuff was like an ordeal. So I remember when YouTube was like around, it was like this site where people like, it automatically puts a replay button for you. And it was like, oh my God, it was like revolutionary. And it was easier because you could upload like different files. You wouldn't have to go through the process of making like Flash files. I mean, or maybe use Flash. I can't remember. You know, and then put file was like another one that I used, but like all that stuff I think is gone. I hope it's gone. But I started like making animated videos and stop motion again at that time because like I was like, wait, I used to do this, and like so it was like a fun thing to do again. And then eventually someone's like, hey, you know, you seem to really like this. You can like go to school for that and like make it a career. So by the time I like went to high school, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do then. So I started I was the AV kid. I was
What kind of classes? What kind of classes did you take in school that allowed you to do that?
So my school is part of a CTE program, Career and Technical Education.
Oh wow!
So we had a dedicated, really it was a television class, television production class. Wow! But it was like TV and film. My teacher came from like the news world. Obviously, we were the class that would put together the morning announcements, like every school had. But we had a little bit more of an advantage because we had better funding. So in addition to doing that, you know, we were allowed to do like other projects, and I took it every single semester of school. Wow. I was just like super into it. You know, at the time, we were able to get like better cameras. So I got the Sony EX3 for the class because my teacher was like, what camera would be good? I was like, dude, get the Sony EX3.
And what made you say that? Did you do a lot of research?
Oh yeah. As a kid, like I was like always on the internet, like seeing what was up because it was like, that was like my film school, like was like going online and just seeing what was up and finding things that I liked and seeing what they shot that stuff on and like learning. My first camera that I got, like I worked for a summer at a Safeway and saved up some money and got some help from my dad and bought myself a Panavision. I bought when I was 15 years old, I bought a Panavision camera.
The grind.
No,
dude, that's insane, dude.
But it was a Panasonic HVX 100 and you know, pretty popular like skate camera and stuff too. Yeah, so like that was like my first real camera. Before that, like the first iteration was laptop with a webcam that would run around and like film like live action stuff with. And then it was like a what I dubbed like the soccer parent camera, which is, you know, like a typical handy cam.
You were using the computer as a brain and you were just holding the webcam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like an early edition Red camera.
Dude,
I had a cool pic. Did anybody else have a cool pic?
What's the dynamic range on that? -5?
What's dynamic range, man? That's
awesome.
I remember shooting like stuff like at night in like the condo complex that I like was living at, and like being like, I can't see anything. But then that became like part of it, was like able to like find those like pockets or something, you know. I was just like honestly, when I was growing up doing this sort of thing for the longest time, you know, it was just something like fun to do, something fun to do with my friends, something fun to do with my brothers. Within that is like this ironic kind of twist where during that point of time before middle school, I actually was like not allowed to watch any TV, movies, games, media of any kind.
Really?
Yeah, my mom had this thing where it was like media rots the brain. So for a good like 3 to 4 years of my life, there was like zero media exposure.
And what age were you at that time?
I think it started when I was like around in like 4th grade.
Oh, wow.
It was like SpongeBob was the shit.
Yeah.
And I had no way to talk about it with anybody because I had no idea what it was. But it's like ironic to me now that I like look back at that. I'm like, wow, there was like this huge like period of time. Yeah. Where I had like no exposure to media. But like in a way, I think that maybe benefited me because it meant like I was creating my own stories and my own entertainment. You know, I was very outdoorsy. You know, I did all that sort of stuff.
Makes sense, totally.
You know, and like when you're like really young, you just kind of like play make believe. And so like I got really good at playing make believe, which is like a big part of being a filmmaker.
So your imagination was on point, basically.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what
Instead of just being force fed, just like, you know.
I don't know what kind of things I honestly came up with back then, but I'm sure I came up with like some weird things. So when I started making movies, it was like all these ideas, like, you know, just the things I'd already been doing. It's just a matter of like filming it and sharing it with other people. Totally. Like now I didn't have to like describe things to people. I could show things to people.
And so, when did your parents let you watch media and entertainment again? When did that come in?
Well, not to get too hard into my own past.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like this thing where like, I think my mom got tired of policing it in a way. So we were started, you know, and we were getting older. So like our brains were like a little more developed.
Mature, yeah.
I was the oldest son, you know, and then my parents were also like split at the time. So it was also like a practical thing of like, well, the dad, you know, or your father doesn't care. He's going to let you watch stuff. So I can't let him be like the only one because you guys are going to want to stay with him all the time. So, you know, American parent system.
Yeah, totally.
But then, yeah, so, you know, it just kind of like gradually fell off and, you know, went from like being allowed to have like 15 minutes in front of a TV a day to eventually, you know, whatever I want, you know, about the time I started going to like high school, I would say. So that's crazy. Yeah, but there was that transition in there too.
Totally. And so you got into high school and then you did all your AV classes and all that stuff and you did it every semester. Yeah. So what happened when you got to the end of that, you know, senior year of high school?
Right into film school.
Right into film school. And where'd you go?
I went to Scottsdale Community College.
Oh, nice.
Cool. They had a film program. My teacher actually, even because we were a CTE program, they could basically create a system where some of your high school stuff could transfer as credits into college.
Oh, wow.
So basically she got SEC to partner with her class, which basically said that if you completed like a certain level of her class, it would count towards like the introductory courses at the community college's film program, which, you know, at that program, it's a community college. So it's the film school at the community college is in a way its own entity, but it's a community college. So you've got like a lot of people. So the idea of like people coming to a film school, they, you know, that aren't applying to be part of a film school, that might be like, oh, this seems fun, I'll just take it. They weed people out. So there's like a couple classes that are like just purely meant to weed people out.
Got it.
But I meant that I got to skip those so I could like just jump straight in. So yeah, so like by the, you know, I graduated in the summer, like everyone did. I was actually supposed to graduate like a semester early. My school had like you did classes semester based rather than year based. So you could actually finish your courses early in a way. And I would have been able to graduate a whole semester early and I would have just started college right away.
Oh, wow.
But I couldn't because I took too many film courses while I was in high school and I
OD'd on it?
No, I OD'd on it. I owed a PE credit. I had to stay a whole extra semester just for the PE credit. It was hilarious.
It's always the PE credit.
Why?
Man,
everyone gets beat by the PE credit all the time. I got beat by math.
There's a lot of people that do that, like college credit thing in high school, and it ends up like biting you on the tail end of it.
Yeah,
it really did.
Stuck with like, I got to do pottery.
Bro, I did pottery too. That was crazy.
So yeah, but
that's cool.
And then that was it. College, into the world, and yeah,
straight in.
Now here I am.
Quite the journey. If the computer didn't update back in the day, you might have been an animator per se.
Yeah,
There
maybe.
you go, animator.
I also might have had my hopes and dreams dashed much earlier and given up on the whole thing and actually gone off to be like a physicist.
Really? Just totally just left field. Just
I was my mom was like, you're so smart. You're going to grow up to be a quantum physicist. Here's all these books. And I read these books and I legitimately thought that was what I was going to do. I loved math. I loved science.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it.
And then someone is like, why would you go to a career field that you would like be secure in? You should go to film. And I was like, that's amazing.
I'm going to do that, dude.
Deal.
That's
You don't get to
absolutely-
sleep.
At the beginning, did your parents, like when you started doing it after college, were they like, why are you doing that?
No, my dad was amazing. I ended up moving in with my dad around high school, and he's very supportive
Nice.
of that choice. Like, never once did I ever feel the pressure from him about pursuing something else. You know, and I think my mom was pretty supportive too. You know, initially, like, yeah, my mother's side of the family definitely had like ideas because it's like, you know, I was supposed to be like the first kid in the family to like go to college and like go to like, you know, I had good grades. I had a potential to go to like a really nice university and stuff. And so they really wanted to see that future for me. So it was like, I'm going to go make movies, you know, wasn't necessarily something that they didn't think was cool or interesting.
Right.
They
At
just
the
thought
time.
it was like a, you know, potential hobby. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. But once it kind of became more apparent, like this is what I was going to do, you know, it was like, oh, okay, cool. But my dad was the one who I feel like really pushed me to like actually pursue it and like understood and wanted to see me succeed.
That's awesome.
And so it was great. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good to have support.
You need that
parents.
support, 100%. My mom at the beginning when we started Reelbros was like, why don't you get a real job with like, you know, real stuff and do all this?
Yeah,
and
I was
you
going to
have
say
the
I relate to
benefits.
that a lot. They just didn't realize that, you know, you can make something out of this industry.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
And they think you need to go get the internship and then, you know, maybe do 2 of them during college and after college, and then get the job, go out to the interviews, and then work for somebody else for the rest of your life.
Yeah, no, sounds terrible.
I'd say we had a pretty good 4-year internship so far.
Yeah, that was a decent, no doubt. So, but yeah, my dad on that side, my dad was supportive kind of throughout the beginning. I mean, he had his doubts, of course, right? Because he's oil and gas, right? So just OG, you know, back in the day, just, you know, corporate companies kind of deal. So, but he was supportive, 100%. He helped me buy our cameras and some stuff, and like got us that start that we needed in college to kind of just progress a little faster. So that was awesome. So yeah, the support from your family is like, you know, you need that. You have to have that, right?
Yeah,
So
no, you
it
do.
helps you push a lot harder, at least.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Definitely. So after college, you're out in the real world. You have the degree, right? And you probably have the vision of like, I want to make movies, but what was the kind of the reality coming out of college? How'd you start pounding the pavement?
I was incredibly fortunate. I was like really lucky and privileged to be able to kind of just jump right into the industry. The college that I went to, the teachers were kind of connected to the local industry. So honestly, within my first semester of school, I was already kind of getting outside of school projects and getting to work in the real world.
Nice.
Sure. But, you know, I was able to kind of start PAing right away because, like, a teacher would be like, hey, you know, here's, like, a call for this thing. You know, like, if you're interested, send an email here. Yeah. So within my I finished my first semester, and then that summer, I got my first paying job as a second AC on a feature film.
Oh, nice.
Which was not what I thought would happen. Right. I went there as a PA, like unpaid PA. I was supposed to be an unpaid PA. But I showed up on the first day, and they're like, oh, you're a PA, go to the mobile home. This is the line producer, you know, you'll talk to him. And that line producer remembered me as an art PA on a music video that they had done. And the art director had introduced me to the line producer at one point because he was like, hey, this is Jacen, you know, really solid worker. You should try and bring him on as a PA more often. Right. And at that time, I still had not been paid for anything yet. I was that free labor. So I show up to this, and the line producer was like, hey, I remember you. You know, you're Jacen, right? Jason, what is it you want to do? You know, and at this time I already knew I wanted to be a cinematographer, and the school projects, I was like always everybody's cinematographer for things. Because back then everyone wanted to be
directors. Yeah.
I thought I wanted to be a director until someone like had me shoot something for them. And I was like, I love this. Yeah. Like I love this. So I was like, that's it. That's what I want to be.
That's awesome.
So I knew I wanted to learn camera. I knew I wanted to learn lighting. So when he asked, I was like, yeah, I'm interested in like camera and stuff. He's like, well, you're in luck. We don't have a second AC. We have a first AC. How about you jump in with him as a second AC? So I was like, oh, cool. Awesome. So I jumped in and worked for like the first like 2 weeks of this project as a second AC, but not getting paid. But I didn't know any better. I learned a bunch. I learned so much, and I was super stoked. Right. But then I get a call from somebody in LA saying, hey man, they're taking G&E opportunities, like internships, you know, for this project in LA. You should really go out there and do it. Right. So I went up to the first AC. His name was Lee, and I was like, hey, Lee, I hate to do this to you guys, but they're giving me this pretty cool opportunity here to do this thing in LA, and I think I'm going to do it. And he's like, yeah, dude, totally fine. Totally understand. You're cool. What was your rate, just so I can find your replacement? I'm like, I wasn't getting paid. Oh, no. And he's like, what? Hold up. So he like walked away. And then that night, I'm loading up the camera truck, and the line producer comes up and he's like, hey, so I heard you're planning to bail on us, man. I was like, no, I'm sorry. No, I was, friend said that there's a pretty good opportunity for a studio feature. And, I want to kind of just start making that transition to LA. So I'm going to do this. I was still in school, I had only been a semester into it. So that wasn't actually going to be practical, but who knows? Like at the time I was like, I'm just going to go wherever the world takes me.
100%.
So he was like, how about if we offer to pay you a little something, would you stick around? How does for the remaining days of the shoot, we pay you $50 a day sound? And I had to play it cool. I had to be like, let me think about that, and I'll get back to you. Inside, I was screaming like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get paid $50 a day to do this. This is insane!" And so I came back the next day. I was like, "Okay, I had to think about it, but like, yeah, I'll stick around." It was like,
wow.
And now I look at that in hindsight. I'm like, man, that line producer, he was like,
he got you.
He really got me.
He got you.
But then after that, it just meant like I had a good connection in the local industry. Right. So like that same guy Lee, he would call me out onto stuff quite regularly, and it was awesome. So, I was working in that, and I was still PAing. Yeah. And then his friend was a gaffer, so he noticed I knew how to like use a C stand or two. So when they needed like a PA who could like help with grip, I would help with that. And next thing I knew, I was like just on more sets than I was necessarily going to school, to the detriment of my classes and my teachers. Like, you're missing too much class, man. Like, we're going to have to drop you if you miss another class. And I'm like on set to go make movies. It's like what I'm there for.
I'm in the field now. But that's funny you bring that up, because I was going to ask if you got credit for doing any of those outside projects. So Brandon and I, when we would do it, our teachers would do the same thing. They're like, hey, there's this thing out here. Go check it out, sign up or whatever.
No one else would raise their hand. We would just be being like, every time she would do it, because to the point they didn't even ask the class, they just asked us.
But we told our teachers, like, hey, if we're going to be doing this, like, we're not going to be getting paid jack shit, right? Or if anything at all, which is totally fine because we need the experience, but can we get like some credit for it? Can we do like, can we get something out of the class? Because we're going to be doing a lot more work than what those internal projects would be anticipated to do, right? So they ended up giving us credit for all of the stuff we did outside of the class, which is like, was insane. So
most of my film instructors were like cool with it. Like, they're obviously supportive. The challenge more came from like the standpoint of like missing class was like, because it was a community college, they had like, it's like red tape or whatever, like, oh, well, if you're it's all in the paper here. So, like, you guys have to follow certain rules. Like the film school is definitely like the people pushing the rules of like the community college the most, but my non-film course instructors totally did not understand or sympathize. I was able to go to school because I basically got like scholarships. So I had to like go to certain classes and maintain a certain grade point average and stuff. And so those are much harder to negotiate with or like figure something out. So I had to like basically lose out on like other opportunities to like go to school. And so like at that point it became my goal to like just finish my degree as quickly as I could and just get out.
Interesting. We didn't do film school though. We had film classes, but we didn't do full film school. So it was a different perspective on that side of it. But we were able to leverage stuff because it was kind of new in our program in a way. So
was there ever the idea to just say like, screw school, I'm going to go to LA and just do this?
Speaking of LA.
I don't know. I mean, like, probably, but I think I'm kind of a completionist too. Like I wanted to get my 2-year, like I didn't want to leave. And I was like making really good friends at film school. Like that was like the most valuable thing is like, I'm still friends with a lot of those people to this day. Even ones that didn't kind of stick with film even after they left.
Nice.
And like, you know, so I kind of like valued the relationships that I had. I liked the opportunities I was being given. At that film school, they had an awesome cage. They had a red Scarlett camera. So like I was able to learn a Scarlett camera
New technology
and move into the real world already knowing how to use a red, which at that time was actually kind of a big deal. Like at that time, it was like, oh, you know how to operate menus? Like I would work for some first ACs who weren't familiar with the menus, but they would like me as a second AC because they could keep doing their job, which is lens forward. And I could be the person who could like help with the tech.
That's awesome.
So I mean, I was getting a lot out of it by staying here.
Yeah.
And I would think like I was fully, I think, intending to like try and make the jump somewhere like LA.
Right.
Because growing up here in Phoenix and even starting out, it was like, you know, I'm sure you guys run into it out here. Like how many times have you had a production come out here and ask, so do you get a lot of work in Phoenix or like, do you have to like go somewhere? It's like, no, there's a lot of work in Phoenix.
It's changing since the pandemic. The mind shifts have been changing for sure. So, but yes, when we were starting, it was like, what do you guys like? What are you doing? Like, do you guys do stuff out here? Like, what do you do? Like, well, what do you mean? Like,
how's work been? Do you guys stay busy?
Yeah, do you guys stay busy?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we do. You know, we travel, but there's a lot of work in Arizona to be.
What are you desert punks doing out here? I mean, like, just like.
It's crazy, but it's changing now. It's shifting.
It totally is.
The amount of friends that I have from LA that are moving here and studios that are moving here, and it's shifting very quickly.
Oh, totally.
I'm hoping everybody that has been here, like yourself.
The new film school? Did you say that?
What?
The new
film school at ASU. They're building a multi-million dollar. They're spending millions of dollars just on the soundproofing of that building.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. But like, I hope that everyone that was here before, like yourself, easily transitions when there's more people coming in, right?
Yeah.
Like you are the dog here, right? You know what I mean? Like you are, like
maybe.
You get in and you are that kind of thing. That's kind of what we hope for. Is like the people that have been working their ass off for Phoenix, and then projects start coming, more and more projects start coming in that are bigger. Hope that you get called on because, you know, you're local, your stuff, you're good at what you do. Like I hope that happens to everybody.
The people that laid the foundation
here.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's that's like a whole.
And that's relationships too. That's a whole nother conversation. But I hope that happens. I mean, I think it would. I think it will.
No, well, I mean, we've got. I mean, when you were talking about crew out here, we've got guys that are like really good at what they do. They've been doing this for longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I learned a lot from those people.
Yeah.
Especially working my way up through the ranks as like being a grip, being an AC. You know, like the lessons I learned from those dudes were invaluable. And they've worked on some really big stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, they had a career in narrative before we lost our tax incentive. You know, like one of the last films out here was like The Kingdom or whatever.
Right.
And like all those guys would work on it. They worked on like Fast and Furious when it was like out here, you know,
Transformers
like, well, Transformers, the most like Transformers 5 I got to work on. That was like a weird recent thing that kind of like came back and like they, you know, they shot here, but they mostly brought crew in. In fact, they wanted to hire more local crew, but most of the local crew who were like really good were like, fuck no. Like, what are these rates? Because they got used to commercials.
Totally.
Right?
So they come to Arizona like, hey, look at this. We can just give these guys chump change.
And, you know,
been there.
These guys are all older. They have families now. Like being away day in, day out, 18-hour days for like a month, like they have no interest in that.
Totally.
But they can work on commercials. They're really good at it.
Boom, boom, boom.
And, you know, like, so Arizona always had a really strong commercial industry. We still do, and it is now growing. I think people are understanding that a little bit more.
Totally.
What I saw all the time was there were some local cinematographers in Phoenix who were doing really solid work. And, but for the most part, it felt like, you know, those positions, especially like directing DP positions, would be coming from LA or coming from New York or coming from somewhere else. You know, this is the zip code on your reel was almost more important than like some of the work because like you got to sell the individual, especially for commercials. Like with agencies, there's like this, you know, there is an element of like kind of like clout, like look who we got. Like this guy just did this music video for Daft Punk, so that's why we want him to shoot your like toothbrush commercial, like, you know, and they'd be like, yes, we have to get that guy.
We need that guy.
If they can do shiny helmets, then they can do shiny teeth. So
Oh my God.
But it is starting, you're right.
No,
It's like in my time
shifting.
here, I've seen it shift a little more. Like even myself.
You would know more.
calls.
Exactly. You
Kind
would
of.
know more.
Yeah.
I mean, we're new in this space, technically in Phoenix, with what we do. So, but in the short time that we've been doing this for 4 years now, we've seen a massive change for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's been on a positive upscale. I mean, Real Man acquiring some stuff from Brainbox and getting more equipment for us to have access to. Like, people are shifting. There's a new 3500 Kelvin moved here with their LED wall. Like, there's new stuff, which is really awesome. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's great to see the infrastructure of Phoenix build back up again.
Yeah,
like,
definitely. Downtown's awesome now.
Downtown's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, I live downtown.
There you go.
I couldn't live anywhere else. But I'm even just talking from like a film perspective. Was like, and it still kind of happens. Like when a production comes in, or if there's multiple productions, like it wipes the town out. The gear's all gone.
Everything.
The quality crew is all gone.
Everything.
And it's, which is great for us working out here. Meant like there was always work, always work.
Yeah.
And now there's even more productions, but now there's more competition. There's more people moving here, and hopefully all those kind of like scale together at the same time.
Yep.
But infrastructure is great. And it's like one thing that like, as a cinematographer in Phoenix, like we do not nearly have the same amount of rental houses that LA does.
No.
We have a couple big ones for a while. A lot of owner operators out here. The ACs had a lot of stuff. When I was the first AC, it's like you start just getting a lot of your own kit because you recognize like, hey, we need this stuff. So sometimes they bring it in from LA. Sometimes they're kind of sourcing it local, but there was just certain things that like local rental houses didn't have.
Right.
Which were especially more focused towards like the grip and electric side of things. So it was just beneficial to do that. And I think that kind of grew with this influx of people. Now we've got some other rental houses and coalitions forming, kind of pooling these gear resources together. But like when I see local groups succeed, when I see, a local rental house expand and grow, when I see people like you move into this space and start facilitating, your own thing, right? It's like, it's exciting to me. Totally. It's more resources for me to pull from. It's more opportunities for me. When other people do well, I get to do well.
Exactly.
I get to benefit from that.
Yep.
And so, I really hope it keeps going, and that the people that have been here for a while get to keep growing with it, which they are. And I think that's going to end up happening, versus everyone moving in from LA and realizing it's the new hot market, like what happened to New Orleans, what happened to Atlanta, where everyone moved in and brought their stuff with them, and it just, it was great for those areas, but not necessarily great for the crews that had started out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's really happened here yet. And I'm optimistic, definitely, but it's weird because it's like weird to think of Phoenix as like one of like the big film hubs, but maybe it'll happen.
I mean, New Mexico was supposed to be the next big, film hub, and a lot of people move there based on that. And I think, I don't know, my perspective's shifting now that people are like, oh wait, Phoenix, and I think that's New Mexico stuff is going to start slowly puddling this way. Yep. I've been talking to a bunch of big crews out there, Technocranes and a bunch of stuff. So I'm curious, but I'm excited. And you said it perfectly, like more resources, everybody wins kind of deal, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to help. A lot of people think we're coming in here to like take people's jobs. Like we facilitate a lot of jobs to, have fun and do more stuff. Like you said, you call us for something specific. You want to hang something upside down or whatever and do whatever. Like we're here to help build that or do that. Like that's what we're here to do. So yeah, we're facilitating Phoenix as much as possible. I'm just saying, like, guys here, we're here to do cool shit. Let's fucking do it.
Right. Yeah. And better, cooler shit means like more opportunities to take risks and create some like the cooler shit out there. Like,
and other people notice that outside the state. And they're like, oh wait, what is Phoenix doing out here, dude? What are they doing? And then they start opening their eyes up. And like, you don't have that mentality of like, oh, you're getting paid shit dollar just because you're Phoenix. So
yeah, like
it'll shift.
And you would do like a local commercial. Like local commercials have like a look, because
100%.
People are not willing to take risks. Yep. And I'm not even saying that from like the filmmaker's perspective. I'm talking about like sometimes it's like agencies or whatever.
It's clients and agencies.
Yeah. But when things are done for a certain way, that creates a certain expectation. So you kind of like just keep doing that. And like I myself, like I was like looking at the stuff being produced all over the world and like seeing all like the different things.
And they're pushing the boundaries all the time.
And more of that is starting to come here. Like, I would get treatments and they'd be relatively like safe, you know, commercial
Sure.
and stuff like that. I mean, just in general too, the whole like idea of what like a commercial can look like has completely changed.
100%.
Like narratively focused, cinematic. Like I don't hate the word, but I hate the word like, because I can't tell you how often I see like somebody reach out to like, we're really looking for like cinematic look. And I'm like, I know what you mean by that, but like, what do you really mean by that? And then you're on set and they're like, it's too dark. And you're like, well, they're like, there needs to be more light on the face. And it's like, but that's sometimes it's just,
look, you hired me.
Cinematic look.
Yeah. You hired me to do that. So why don't you just stay there and wait for this end product to look great? You know what I mean?
Somebody should make like a dictionary for agencies that they can like
Bro,
look at the definition of what the words they are using and slinging out at you the entire time.
I actually disagree. I think it's 180. We need a little pocketbook.
We need to educate them.
Translator.
Yeah.
We always say that we need to educate them. So we need like a thing that's like, okay, look, this is what we want, and then it translates so they can understand it.
It's like
that
Google,
makes sense.
Google Translate for agency filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, and in a way, like in the commercial space, like that's kind of like what your producer and your director are actually doing.
Right.
Like they're the link to that side of it, you know, because it's just like, just as we have our industry, like agencies, creative, like marketing teams and stuff, they have their own industry. They came up through a different thing too.
Totally.
We meet at this intersection that is like set, that is like video content, but like agencies are doing more than video content. That's just like one small part. I mean, you guys even saw in that one thing we did together, like, you know, there's like a whole campaign to it that involved multimedia stuff.
Yep.
So, you know, like as much as I like to like, you know, rag with the director on like,
what's the best
ridiculous request from an agency or like this silly way they might word something.
Sure.
Like I do understand it, you know, like I would love for there to be a better communication there. But when you have a really great director and even more so like a really great producer,
when they
like,
want you, that's the best.
well,
right?
and they facilitate that conversation even better. And, you know, and as the landscape changes, these agencies are open to some of these other things. Like everything's an evolution, right? Everything's always growing, everything's always changing. And it's a matter of adapting, you know? So like it's happening already, you know? And I already feel like things are starting to shift into this, like it's already shifted into this cinematic space, and just you wait, there's going to be something else and it's going to move away from that
100%.
again. So you got to be adaptable too. So
Sink or swim.
Sink or swim.
Sink or swim. Dude.
Sink or swim.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to kind of jump in to talk about some of your work here on your website. But before we get into that, I'm kind of curious on your approach to a project. So like when an agency or a producer or somebody approaches you and they say like, we have a commercial and this is how we want to shoot it, is there something specific that you start to look at from the DP standpoint specifically? Like, do you look at like a unique piece of equipment you want to bring to the table? I guess it could
lighting
be,
schematics,
it could be shoot specific, but like just a general sense. How do you approach a project from the start?
Yeah, right. I mean, you already said it. Like, it's so shoot dependent sometimes. It like really depends. Like some groups will come with a very strong idea of exactly what they're looking for. Others are like looking for you to maybe help figure that out or bring a bit of yourself into it. So obviously,
what do you like more?
I like a mix, honestly. Yeah. I love being creative.
Sure.
But
is it too much pressure sometimes?
It could be a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Totally.
You know, and it's worse when somebody like secretly actually really wants something specific, but they're like, I'm just going to let you figure it out. And then it just feels like you're like letting them down. Cause it's like, sometimes it's just I love being told no. Like I love when like I want to do something like, hey, here's this like idea I have. And they're like, no. Like, that's great. It lets me know, like, it gives me like where I should go. Yeah, it gives me direction. Like, you're not going to offend my feeling. Like, this industry will chew you out if you're, like, super sensitive or super precious with things, especially, like, in a commercial sense. And, like, that was, like, one of the big lessons I learned over time.
Totally.
But to get back to, like, the main question, I mean, so much of our job as filmmakers, and I would say really the job of a cinematographer is, like, problem solving. I've always described my role in like the world of cinematography as kind of like the link between a director's creative vision and its technical execution. It's like, it's a very technical role, but it's not purely tech. You know, there is a creative element to it, and your relationship to the director or the project can lean on one side of the scale to the other. Sometimes you are way more of like just a technical solver. Sometimes you are a creative solver, but regardless, you're solving problems. So if someone comes to me with like an open-ended thing, like, hey, here's the creative brief. This is what we're trying to do. Here's the audience we're trying to appeal towards. This is what the product is. This is what the story is. The solve is, okay, how do we translate that into something visual? And if they come to you with a very specific thing, like, hey, we need to have the camera shooting at 1,000 frames a second, spinning full 360 around someone in a matter of seconds while seeing full head to toe and seeing complete 360. How do we do that? That's a different kind of solve.
100%.
And most of the time you're doing both. You're finding some intermediary between that.
True.
So
Very
I
true.
think my process usually starts with getting as much of an understanding of the work done on a project up until the point I've been brought on, and then identifying problems and then coming up with solutions.
Nice.
And once you have that to kind of go off of, the other things just kind of like fall into place. It's so much like building with blocks or something,
Right.
To bring it back to Lego, it's like when you're trying to like create something and you see like two pieces fit together a certain way that lets you like connect
Right.
the head to the tail.
Right.
Right. It like things just start to click into
Boom,
place.
boom.
So
That's awesome.
I think that's a great place for people to start. It's a place that I tell a lot of aspiring like cinematographers who just ask me similar questions, like, where do you start? It's just like, start with understanding the project in the fullest sense that you can, and then start identifying your challenges or the obstacles you're going to have to solve in that.
Right.
And they're going to be a wide range of things, and then just start picking away at those. And sometimes one solution here will make another solution there, or it will identify a bigger problem that then you can go to your producer or even your director and be like, hey, this is an issue. The other thing is just like, speak up. If you're seeing, like, if there's something that like stands out to you and you're like, I don't feel good about this. Early on in my career, I wanted to be like a people pleaser. Like I wanted to be like, I can do it.
Man,
Like I would feel the pressure when you're young and you're new and you're starting out, and like, especially as a young cinematographer, when there's like more experienced cinematographers out there, you feel like if someone approaches you with this thing that just doesn't seem possible, you feel pressured to like, I have to solve it because like that, otherwise they should go with somebody else.
Right.
Like clearly they would just solve this problem.
Right.
Like I got to prove myself. And I've kind of like learned with time, like, yeah, I mean, maybe they're not really. Like, it's better to identify things and start talking about it rather than just secretly like try and figure it out yourself. Like if you
just
see,
saying, yes, I can do it.
yeah, just
I did that a bunch.
and if you're working with like good people, like they're not going to like hate you. They're going to appreciate that you were like honest. And now you've got more than one brain working on this possible problem. Like that's the other thing, is like open yourself up as much as you can to collaboration. That's why it's so important to start with just like, understand the work that's been put into a project ahead of time. Like as a DP, so often, like I'm being brought in like a week or two before a project. A lot of the times locations have already been chosen for me. I have no say in what they're like, here's our locations. And maybe I get to go on a location scout and be like, it would be better to look this direction. Other times it's like, here's our schedule. We're looking these ways. Like, this is what we're allowed to see. And then it's like, okay, I just need to take that and make it the best that I can. So, so much of a project can already be determined before you even show up.
100%. They just need you to push buttons and make it look pretty.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, but sometimes there is an opportunity to kind of like bring yourself into it. It's just like, just understand that the work is like what work has been put into it. One, it saves you a step. Two, it's an amount of like professional like courtesy and respect too. Like everyone is just like you. Hopefully, everyone is as confident and as passionate as you are.
Right.
Everyone is trying to do the best job that they can. So understand the work that they put into something and like try and be a collaborator, not necessarily like, don't just like run and do your own thing.
100%.
Sometimes people do want you for like maybe something specific you can bring to the table. And like, I think I try to lead very strongly with like a style or just like a vibe. I don't know. Like I on my website, I try to curate it, even though done a really bad job lately. I've been way overworked, so I haven't had a lot of time. But ultimately, like I don't want someone to like go onto my site and then like, hey, we really like this. Here's like the complete 180 of that. Like I want to work, so I want the 180 job too. Like I do want that toothpaste commercial or mayonnaise commercial.
Technically, you know what I mean?
I gotta pay bills just like everybody else. One for the meal, one for the reel, as they say.
Exactly.
But I hope by like starting forward with like, here's what I do. This is kind of like what I lean towards. This is my taste. Like taste is such a thing. Like I am a big believer that there is no such thing as just like good or bad. I mean, I guess there might be good or bad, but like, I think everything's just like, it's all so subjective, especially with what we do. It's just a matter of taste. Like I can like look at another director's work and I could be like, this is done, like this is crafted really well. Not my thing, but it's crafted really well. I think you like, you're great at what you do. It's just not my thing.
Right.
And I think people look at that with my stuff too. They're like, you know, like not my thing. Don't really like it. You know, like that happens a lot with like potential jobs.
Have you lost a lot because of that or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I have a website with a black background. If I had a white background, I'd probably get a lot more work. For a specific like direction, absolutely. You know, like I've heard like, you know, and that's why you have like other
clean
like
perspective, like what, fresh, like
no, you just have like a. It's just
what's
like
that vibe that the clients are going there. If you have a dark background and you're seeing this, like
safer. You know, where you can see the face clearly. Like just think like, you know, more like supermarket commercials or something else like that. You know, like
right.
They're
high key stuff.
High key stuff. Yeah. Which is, you know, it's always funny because like sometimes like. The director is like, I really like this guy. Let's get this guy. And then like agency or whoever, they're like, yo, his stuff's like too dark. We need like higher key stuff. And like, I've had a few directors be like, this is the hard stuff though. Like the high key stuff is easy. He could do like, if he can do this stuff, he can do the high key stuff.
100%.
But they don't know that until they see it. They just want to, so much of the things you want to do are things that you could see. Like you could even have something like look exactly the way it is, but it's for basketball, not baseball. Yeah. And they're like, well, he knows basketball, but does he know how to film baseball?
Right.
And it's like, so, you know, you end up creating a whole bunch of ghost links. Like I have the stuff that I think I'm most proud of that I like lead with, but like I also have like, I'm being contacted about this like
100%
thing. So here you go. Here's like this stuff that's like all this high key stuff. And so you just be prepared with that. But that's kind of like what I meant. But like the white background versus that is like the black background definitely ties into a lot of darker images. Yeah. But if overall the whole presentation was brighter, then, you know, I'd be getting a lot of other jobs.
Sure.
But I also probably wouldn't be working on as many things that like I'm like super passionate about.
Totally.
And then you realize like, hey, there's a lot of other great DPs out here who actually love doing that type of stuff.
Right.
Like I don't need to take every job. I'm fine.
Sure.
Like I'm gonna survive just fine.
Right.
And in this current landscape, like there's so many more people coming into the game. Like I was on the cusp, like when I was a kid starting out, like I remember when DSLR, like the 5D was a thing. Like I was using an HVX. I was trying really hard to make it cinematic. I didn't go so far as to do the ground glass adapters, like the lettuce adapter in front of it. You know, but I would film that thing with like myself intentionally, like manually exposing it the best that I can.
Sure.
Almost overexposing it, throwing it on long lenses so I could get as shallow depth of field as I want, and like just filming constantly like that, just to like do that sort of thing. And then I would like go and do these films and like do like student film competitions against kids who started having like 5Ds, and they're like, their stuff looks so cinematic, and I'm like, oh God, you know, and like that was like super exciting time. And it's gone way further than that. Like now, not only do we have like affordable cameras, like which is like an understatement.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
100% understatement.
Especially once mirrorless got put into the game.
So like you go on YouTube now and you see like YouTube channels dedicated like, here's how you succeed as a cinematographer. Here's 3 steps to being a good cinematographer, and you're like, fuck, it's that easy. What am I even doing?
What am I doing, dude?
So, you know, it's like, if you get too caught up on like how good of an execution of something you can do is, like, you're going to just fall behind, because like cinematography is so much more than that. And so just find something you enjoy doing and then just stick with that. Like there are people who are like utility knives, like they could bounce between all sorts of different styles, and maybe that's their skill. But I find more and more people are like looking for someone that has like a very narrow slice. And they're like, you're really good at this narrow slice. You're going to miss out on a lot of jobs.
That's funny you say
you're going to get those jobs in that slice.
In that slice. But that's like, I keep going back to this reel thing. I've never been a big proponent of a reel. I feel like that just, like you said, it kind of puts you in that, you put that out, what you think is the best, but that narrows your, you know, window down. In reality, you can do a lot more jobs than what that reel shows, right?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the reel that you want to kind of like put out there.
I don't even know if I want a reel. I'd rather just send in my link like this.
I'd rather do this.
I'd rather do this because
sometimes they don't care and they'd rather see a reel. But like it's so weird because it's like
I think it's an old school mentality though.
It really is, but like they go through things so fast. Like
I know it's quick.
It's like, you know, and now we've got like Instagram and stuff, and it's just like still photos. It's so weird because it's like, you know, like in a still photo you can show composition and lighting, but like cinematography is camera motion,
it's
things in
much
motion.
Different.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is a big part missing out right now. But like, I mean, again, I'm so bad at keeping my website up to date, but like so much of my website right now is like just stills from projects. Most of them because they're like not finished or didn't necessarily get released, or maybe they got mired in like the post end of things. And like, you know, I just don't want
to show though.
Yeah.
It's good because they can see like, oh, I can quickly just go through.
Exactly.
Like, oh wow, that frame looks really
It's the same
sick.
as skipping through a timeline, but now you're skipping to like the best parts.
Exactly.
Right. So I do get a lot of work based on this alone, but then
do people say they like your website and how they like?
Usually,
lay it
yeah.
out? Okay,
you know, if I get hired from a job and it's like, especially like an out of town production, I usually like, so how'd you find me? Like what worked? What, you know, I want to know because maybe I need to be doing more of that. It's just, you know, it's just worth knowing how people kind of come across you. And like,
because you know, we can work on more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Put more effort into so they can get more of that, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, I've heard like, oh, your website stood out because it was different. Like that's one I've heard a bit. It's like it was different, and I'm like, okay, that's cool.
That's a good thing.
It's
right?
a good. No, I feel. Yeah, it makes me feel really good to hear that. It makes me feel like validated in like what it's about that taste, right?
Sure.
It's like I have my own taste. So rather than trying to make things that like I think appeal to other people, I'm kind of just trying to make things that appeal to me. And if someone's like, hey, that's different, we like that, I'm like, oh, so you like my taste, which is awesome to know going into a project, because then that means we're going to align. I don't have to try and convince you of anything. You're not going to try and convince me of anything. Sometimes we're just already going to be on the same page just because we like the same thing.
The product's probably going to turn out way better than the people who control it too much. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
when a guy comes after you and they're like, oh, I want that look, and you guys have a you collide and you're like, boom, that project's probably going to be way better than the person in the agency who is like, dun, 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 you're asking all these questions and all those things. Like, typically that's kind of how that works, right?
Yeah.
Because they're more creative.
A lot of things get lost in translation.
They try to micromanage you.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then it's like, okay, I'm losing my, passion on this specific project. I'm losing that like.
It's a fine line, I would say, between like when it comes to like collaboration of being like productive versus like a hindrance. And, we've all been there. We've all been on those projects where maybe it's a lack of trust, maybe it's just a different vision for things or different tastes, and that could lead to compromise, which can just kind of just be not the greatest part of either world. Right. But sometimes, and like, again, we're in a collaborative forum, so many of the things that like I feel like I'm happiest with, I kind of like look at it and I have to like be like, remind myself like, no, you were a part of this, but I see it like, oh, this only happened because like the director said this one specific thing, or this accidentally happened, or the gaffer had this interesting idea. And like, I loved it. It was like, that was like the best shot of the whole thing. And like, that wasn't even my idea necessarily. And it's like,
that happens.
Yeah, it does happen.
That's a good collaborative team though.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's a part of the process. It's a part of the job, like is like learning to kind of like let go and know that like,
some people know their shit.
Some people know their shit, and it's like it's just this weird melting pot of ideas.
Yeah.
That's why it's every project can be given, or you can take the same idea and give it to a different team, and it's going to come out wildly different. Not just because of the individuals, but because of like the unique combination of the team. And that realization, especially as a DP, kind of like frees you a lot, because then you don't feel as responsible over like every minute detail, like which like. At the end, when you're like towards like when you're at this stage or you're at this like level of the tone pole, like everything below you is like your responsibility. So, that's still always going to be there, but it's more of like this idea of like, if you struggle with like self-doubt or anxiety about like the stuff that you do, like I do that a lot. I have that, it helps to know that like, it's not, it facilitate a good creative environment even, and like you can create good stuff if you have like a good team behind you, and it like you just feel like so supported. And that support can be really reassuring.
Do you think there's a lack of that here, or
no? I mean,
there's plenty of it.
There's plenty. I mean, it's got to find a team, right? You got to find people you work well with.
So you have your A team set in stone, kind of. Or not really?
No.
You have A, B, C, D team?
Well, I wouldn't even like...
Not like rate, like as a scale is good to bad, but I mean just like multiple options.
Yeah, it's kind of like sometimes, you know, you get asked for like a very specific project or a very specific thing. You're like, I know who's great for that. Right. You know, like the people that I think I work best with in a documentary sense are different than people that I think work really well in like a studio sense and a commercial sense versus a narrative sense of all right, here, let's go with like this high key thing versus, hey, like, I'm not even going to turn on any lights.
Let's get moody.
Like, let's get moody. Like, you know, different people see it. Again, it's that matter of taste. And it's like, some people are really great at certain things. Yeah. So bring them onto that project because they're really good at that thing. And, but, you know, and so, you know, it's like, it's assembling a team a lot of the times.
That's good.
And that's if I get a say in it. You know, so many times too, it's like a crew can be already set for you, you know, like, unit production managers, line producers, coordinators, they have people that they call. A lot of the times they'll call the team for me, you know, or they'll be like, hey, we've got so-and-so lined up as the gaffer. Are you cool with that?
And there's a period in time on that production where you've got to explain yourself, what I'm doing, what am I doing? Like, and you've got to find out who you're going to be working with on that job to make sure that's like full success, right? It's like, there's like a period on your job. You've got to take your time to go figure out who everybody is and like make sure that everyone's aligning in the right spot.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's, it's so much prep work.
Yeah.
Like whether you're being brought on with enough time to prep or not, whether you're getting paid for prep or not, it's all prep work. It's about doing your homework. So when you show up on the day, like the people working underneath of you know, like you did your job coming into this project. Like, you know, you've got ideas, you got solutions. You're a leader, man.
Exactly,
You're a leader. You got to lead the team. And like, they want, you know, you can have some people who like, if you just turn them loose, they would make you look good.
Yep.
They'd be like upset with you because they'd be like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just doing your job.
Interesting.
But if you come in there, like I could storyboard or I could.
Do you do a lot of lighting schematics before jobs?
Depends on the job.
Sure.
You know, for some.
A heavy lighting. Well, let me give you an example. This Arizona, the sports one.
Yeah.
Was that heavy lighting? Did you diagram that out? What did you do? So that's a big space to light, dude. I mean, huge.
Yeah.
It's a stadium.
Huge. Exactly. Yes and no. I mean, I knew going into the project, like these are huge spaces and I did not have nearly the budget or the time. I mean, like with this spot, we were shooting at all the major stadiums in Arizona. You know, we shot at the Cardinals, we shot with the Diamondbacks, we shot, you know, and we were allowed on average like 3 hours per location over the course of like, cause you know, like I know like when we shot at the Cardinals stadium, the only way we could shoot in that stadium with the grass rolled out is they only roll that grass into the stadium right before a game. So we were filming at like midnight the day before a game, which was like stressful because like if you fuck this shit up, you're fucking up the game. Like, do not ruin our field. So like we weren't even allowed to go onto the field really. We had to stay on the sidelines, you know, but like, so even if I had the money for the lights, like I didn't even have time to like light. Sure. So I knew like, okay, like I'm going to have to use some of the light that's already there,
100%.
Which is something I even wanted to do anyway, because I'm like, you know, they came to me and it was like to the credit of like the agency and the creative director. You know, I'm sure there was like a lot of people that were kind of pitched for the project, but they're like, we like this guy because he seems to know how to light, but more specifically, he's just like going to go all in on like a look.
Totally.
And so like, that's what I did. I went all in on look.
Dude,
and I was like,
kick ass. Dude.
Thank you.
It's been playing on, I see it all over the place, man.
I know I really screwed up. I should have like negotiated some like licensing or something for that.
Because they are cranking it out. Every time I go somewhere, I mean, oh dude, I know they did such a good job. It's just a cool look for Arizona. Arizona's never seen anything for their sports like this, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of vibe.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks. I mean, yeah, I kind of just said it, like, I didn't go in there like, I'm going to change the script. I was like, I'm going to just do what I think would be super cool.
Exactly.
And so, you know, we got, and I was given the trust to do that, which was like a huge part of it.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's like going in, planning, the scouting locations. Like I did a lot of scouting.
How long did it take? So, there's ice, there's fields, there's
right. Oh
courts,
yeah. So scouting wise, you know, we had like a scout day per locate. Well, no, it was like a couple different scout days. Then some of them might have to come back. A lot of my process was like, okay, I know what the lighting I want to be from directions and stuff. And like, okay, here's, you know, talking to the technical team at the stadiums,
and
being
the stadium,
like,
the engineers
what do you have lighting wise? Like, what are the spec on the lights? What can I, you know, showing up we couldn't move them.
Okay.
I knew that, and I was like, there's no time to do that. But like, I'm like, can we control sections of lights? What sections could we control? What could we do with that? And that, it goes back to the idea of solving problems. It was like, okay, well, with the problem you're trying to solve here, maybe the solution now is just natural because I can't move the lights and I can only turn on this quadrant of lights, or I can turn all of the lights. Like some of the locations, like you could either turn on these few lights or all the lights, and there's nowhere in between. And you're like, oh man, okay, so that's really limiting. So you would just start solving, at the what you have pulled up here, that was the Coyotes Stadium.
So what was this kind of breakdown? You've got,
so this was actually that was the most extensive lighting setup I think I had. Because all the other
are those in-house lights there?
No, we added those. Because like that was the thing. It was like, I'm like, oh, I want to shoot so you can see units and all the frames, and like the thing is, at the Coyote Stadium in hockey, it's all directly over your head.
Totally.
It's not like classic, what you think of a stadium with like football or whatever.
Big bulbs. You can
so I knew I had to add them. Yeah. So those are all just a whole bunch of basically par cans. There's a specific name for them. I'm blanking on the name of it.
Are they HMIs?
Or no. They're tungsten with like CTO CTB, blue correction filters in front of the lights. Shoot.
What are they, like 2Ks, or are they like what are they equivalent to? Like 2K probably?
Yeah, a little under a 2K. They're like super punchy. Spotlights will burn straight through a gel, so you have to set the gel pretty far away from it.
So they're big hot light.
Big hot lights. Okay. And then 2 Joker 800s with Geolico attachments on the far corners, which I don't know if it's. I don't think you could see them quite in that frame.
Is this what lighting him here, or is that something different?
So those are the Jokers are giving an edge light. These lights are actually giving him a little bit of the edge light, but the Jokers on the very far side are giving him a stronger edge light. Way over here, right? Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And then
did you have a negative? Someone on here doing a negative film?
Yep. I had on that setup. I had somebody walking on the ice, my grip team, with a 8x or 12x neg.
So pretty big neg.
Well, because I had this was shot on we shot on the RE Master Anamorphics, and I want to say this was the 32. So
we saw that build. I was like, oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, those lenses are beautiful.
Yeah. But the ice is a giant bounce as well, right?
The ice is a giant bounce. Yeah. So in the close-ups, we would put stuff on the ground. Okay. And I think that's why I ended up, because like a lot of the times when I do neg, it's like kind of over the top because you're like taking out the sky. Right. And here I had to tell my grip team, no, it's actually kind of scooping underneath. And we had to do big because the wider frame, you were going to see them. So you had to go bigger. And then the key light was a 4K HMI. Actually, I think we used 2 to help cover the distance a little bit more from far. And like that was the other thing.
It's pretty soft here, though. Did you use any to diffuse it, or
it's not?
Is it just that far away? It's a hard light that far away. So by the time it got to him, that
was kind of like one of the things was like even working with like my G&E team. Like they're like, you're gonna just pound him with like a raw like HMI light? Are you crazy? I'm like, yeah,
do it, dude.
Like especially in the wide shots, like it totally works. And here, we had a hazer going, so like that creates atmosphere, can like help diffuse it a little bit. And like this guy though, like his look, like I had seen him from like other projects that the agency had shot with him for the same client, and it was like, I'm like, I love this guy's look.
Yeah,
like
it's totally cool,
dude. He is rough, he's rugged. Like get him a hard light. Yeah, so like that's in the close-ups, like there's always like this hard light that's like almost raw, just like hitting him. But then there's usually like kind of like a softer light that's kind of coming from the side, or the stadium lights. When you have multiple lights, they're softer because now they're all spread out.
Right.
So it's kind of like
bigger source.
Yeah, it's a mix of hard and soft light together, but like his key being like usually like a hard light source, which is also the only way to really like push it that far too.
Right.
Because it's like, not only lighting a big space, but like for the creative, like the idea is like even though in the edit he's only like on the frame for like a couple seconds at the time, we're filming him from point A to point B, which would often like cover like 30 plus feet walk to like go through the whole script.
Oh, wow.
And like there was no such thing as like lighting each shot or moment of it. It was like I only had like 3 hours to do everything, and you're doing script copies. Like so that means like there was like 8 different scripts we had to run through with him. So not only you're going through the whole process of like doing the take, oh, that take wasn't good for like camera, like there wasn't time for that. Like if you messed up a camera take, it didn't matter. Like you better not mess up a camera take. That's why you have a really great AC. You have a good dolly grip, or camera car driver. We use that Ronin attached to, or no, I think it was a Movi attached to like a golf cart, was like a thing I could sell. Yeah, like a black arm was like a lot of these locations we could just drive that like right on the ice or something and not lay track, because track would take too long to lay. So you could just,
and you got to anchor it too.
You got to
get mad about,
that was not going to happen. No. So like there was like again problems, solutions, coming up with those, and they all just kind of like harmonize in a way.
If you need me to skate, Colby and I skate, play hockey still, so we'll come out there and.
Oh, dude, you should see him on blades with the gimbal. It's insane.
I would love to.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down. We also want to put the robot on the ice too, so we're gonna do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's gonna be sick. We gotta go play.
Waiting on track for it.
Yeah, we need track, but it's gonna be wild. You imagine that thing hauling ass and it just like fucking launches and just.
Well, I gotta, yeah. My gaffer actually was taking like my DF50 Hazer, and he was like sliding around on it as like a sled, like he was sitting on top of it, like scooting around across the ice and stuff, because that thing's like a brick, and like, but on the ice it was great because he could just push it. Yeah,
that's awesome. I love it, dude. That's so good. So like the ice hockey stuff was sick. So with the stadium, you just use their big Sourcey lights up there up top, and shut everything else off.
So so when we came to do a lot of just the stuff with the players, right? Because every location was like 2 steps. There was like the more commercially thing with the guy with the credit card and all that, and then there was like the player stuff. And the player stuff was like one of the things was like none of these are going to be actual players of the teams, so we have to obstruct their face.
Oh, they're not players.
They're not players, not actual. So you need to kind of obstruct their face. But then they kind of like let up on that rule a little bit, as you can like see in some of these shots.
Interesting.
They didn't get used as much in the edit. That's why like I just use them because I'm like I like how it looks.
Right. So these were all actors.
Right.
People on ice.
Yeah,
so you had to find people that had to skate and stuff, or what?
Yeah, they found people who could like skate, part of the casting process. Like, oh, can you do this? And like a lot of them were actually like college players or whatever, so.
Did you get any feedback from like actual people, like, hey, those people aren't actually on the team?
No, I've never heard that. So.
I haven't either, but I'm just curious.
Yeah,
like, some asshole's like, wait a minute, that guy's not on.
I think,
you know what I mean? There's some guys just like, wait a minute.
Well, and I remember like at one point we like lost a lot of time because there was a miscommunication because like one of the teams was like changing their like jerseys or whatever. So we were prepared for like old colors, and then like we had to like fake new colors of like the jersey. Like wardrobe had to like just do tape and like other stuff on set, and like it worked, and like no one would ever know. But it was crazy. Just all those like details like can like slow the thing down, and like I don't have to worry about that part so much, thankfully.
100%.
But yeah, it was very much about with the players using what was already there and then supplementing. I think we just used Gemini 1x1 panels because they were quick and easy to like carry around. And like when it came time to shoot like the player sports stuff, there was like
pause. So what was this project all about here?
So this project was actually part of a collective of projects. It was a commercial project for the Phoenix Art Museum. Good friend of mine named Chris Heck kind of basically put it all together with another friend of ours, a guy named Josh Gonzalez, and our other friend Kieran Thompson. Basically, Chris approached the museum who like wanted some like promotional content, and was like, okay, like look, you can spend like a lot of money and get like a 30-second TV ad or something, but like you're an art museum, you curate art, let's curate an art piece for you. And so he sold them on this idea of creating short film stories that take place in various parts of the museum. So like a collective of things. And like they would all be like a different style or whatever. And initially started with like 5 or 6 different like film projects, and it kind of got narrowed down because of budget and stuff. So we ended up doing 3 projects, and they had me shoot 2 of them. And this is one of them. This was one called Wish You Were There, and Chris Heck wrote it, and then our friend Kieran Thompson, he directed it. So
I didn't know you used.
Just a silly fall. I seem to be getting more clumsy.
These local actors?
No, they came from LA, so they
Shall
cast
we
them in
go?
LA.
Yes, of course. Let's get this date started.
Did you like working with them?
Oh yeah, they were fantastic. I love working with actors.
Yeah. It's cool because they always take what you say and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they're all creative individuals.
Totally.
So they all got their own thing, their own process and stuff. They're all their own stories, their own lives.
Yeah.
And, it's that's what I love about filmmaking is you meet so many different people.
So
you
many.
work with so many different people. I want to, if the work never turned out, I would hope to still work because like I just enjoy the process of making movies and working with people.
Right.
But yeah, so this project it has a very documentary look and feel to it. That is something Kieran and I had talked about as an idea of Kieran's pretty early on. this is one where they gave me a little bit more creative leeway than some maybe commercial projects would. But Kieran also had like his own ideas. He would share films that he liked. We would talk about potential inspirations and references.
Right.
Early on in the process, I was like, well, these are films about like art and paintings and stuff like that. I wanted to go anamorphic because I wanted that kind of like the texture the anamorphic gives you almost reminds you of like brush and strokes and things like that.
Oh yeah.
We shot on the Atlas Anamorphics budget. I was trying to go with Cook Anamorphics, something with like a little more character.
Sick. What set did you use? You have them, don't you?
No. I don't have them. It was the A set.
The A set, yeah.
Because they had only like recently like come out and stuff. So
what was that? 35, 75?
No, that was the 40, 60, and 100.
40, 60, and 100. The 100's sick.
65, not 60.
60, yeah.
So, so that's the choice for anamorphic here. Is, I was looking for the texture. Oh, yeah, it's super pretty. But then it was like, a matter of, okay, so we're shooting in a museum, right? So, again, challenges, problems was like, okay, if you're filming in a museum, what can you even do? One of those things is like, you can't use hot lights. Like, you're going to damage the artwork to the point that, like, the museum had their own person with a light meter that was taking meterings of my lights to make sure I wasn't adding too much light to stuff.
That's crazy.
Like,
because they're super sensitive.
Control, weather control, and those types of places all the time. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And I had like a 2-person.
Was it like a normal like DP like light meter, like a normal? Or was it different?
I didn't pay too close attention. I think basically
meter, probably?
No, it was it was like a light things. It was they had. Basically, they were metering our lights. I wasn't sure what details they were coming off of, but like, not to mention I was like just working on this stuff. But like I knew like the producer's like, hey, like, what is your plan for this? And I'm like, well, one of those is like LED lights. So like, let's not cast any extra heat that we don't need. Right. So, we knew we were going to use LED lights. Most of these were like this sequence was like lit by a single light mat 2L over their heads.
Right up top. Yeah.
Right up top.
Yep.
So it was more about shaping the light that was either there by controlling it, maybe putting tape over certain sconces or things. Mm-hmm. We couldn't adjust the lights that were there. Like we couldn't reposition them because everything's so finely positioned.
Yeah.
But it was like, so we walked in and we're like, so Kieran had this idea. He was like, I really want to, like, I want us to kind of feel like a fly on a wall. Like this is a story about two people like falling in love. I don't want to get in the way of that. I don't, initially we had like these ideas and be more structured, like a typical shoot with shots and stuff. Right. And then as we moved into this world of like, well, we're going to kind of embrace like a documentary styled approach, became more like every scene is one shot. Mm-hmm. There is no cutting within a scene. I mean, towards the end there is, and it was like very intentional, but like those first couple of scenes, like that was one take shots, which was exhausting as a DP. I'm operating handheld and doing all that, you know, and you're just feeling the scene, like we would rehearse the general idea of like where they would walk and what my framing might like end up at. Right. But everything in between was kind of like, just feel it out, just feel the scene. And so like, I actually, when you're shooting a project, you read the script, the script. Sure. But you're not really paying attention to performance because like as a DP, you're paying attention to lighting and framing and all this other stuff. And here, like I was so engrossed in the performance because I needed the performance. Like this was like this sequence here was like completely freestyle. It was
performance based. It's like, that was going to make it or break it, right?
Exactly. Like here, this was like, the director was like, I want to shoot in this room. He wasn't quite sure what. And I was like, here, like walk. I have an idea. Like what if, like, here's a path. Yeah. And then just freestyle from there. And then it was just like coming up with it as we shot. And, we did like one take of that. Most of these we would only do like 1 or 2 takes. Like, again, not being too precious.
If you were doing multiple takes, did they end up coming out different? Would you try different ideas?
Yeah, if we did multiple takes, we would usually make, it would usually be relatively like minor changes, I would say. Like, it would be like rethinking it or anything, kind of like from a standpoint of like, you don't want to change it up too fast. Like I want to change it up on my AC and like have a miss a critical focus moment or whatever. Yeah. So we kept all that like the same, but there'd be stuff where I'm like, I'm going to just start pushing in. I'm going to start walking in like here. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And we would just embrace that. And so even though a lot of these scenes are lit, like I never wanted anything to feel lit. I wanted to make it feel as much like possible. Yeah, as natural and as much as just like a museum as possible. But it's so
lifting the practical stuff there,
right? But it's so dark in there because it required a little bit to actually be able to accomplish that. Right. And and again, like if you guys have shot on the Atlases, like they
yeah.
go to a 2, but you should probably almost
Don't
never shoot at a 2 unless you're really like, I do that. Sometimes I will intentionally do that. Yeah. But it's like you are committing. Yeah. So most of this was shot at a 4.
Yep.
At a 4, those lenses are really good and clean.
Yeah,
They're kind of like the masters in feel at that point. We had a black Pro Mist in there.
That's so cool right here. That's so sick.
Yeah, there was this really awesome art installation, and like that was a part of it too. It was like this whole project was about like highlighting aspects of like the museum, like all the exhibits there are actual exhibits. We didn't put anything in, but it was like on a scout. It was like we weren't even going to have this scene, and then the director like came across this room, and he's like, "Could we do something in here?" I'm like, "Yeah, we could do something in here." Cool. So it was about just like embracing what was there, and it's so much fun. It was so freeing to do that. And we just had great performances from the actors that really carried it.
Great.
But it was definitely like a totally different process, to go in that direction. Cause I come from a lighting background, so like I love lighting, like, having to like basically commit to like only single source on this and work with what was already there isn't something that like I'm not used to or not necessarily against, but like the lighting wasn't the key thing. The lighting needed to just serve a simple purpose, which was see the details we need to see, draw your eye to the right part of the frame. I often view lighting is like more a tool of composition than anything else. Like, lighting helps you frame your shot. It tells you where to look. It can create shapes or shadows and stuff, and they can balance out a frame. So, really it was like finding these compositions. Like here, this was also like a accidental, not totally accidental, just worked. It just like, again, like sometimes you're just amazed, like if you put yourself in the right space of mind and you work with the right team, things just happen. But there's this painting that was behind him, and it's, like a stormy background. And like, basically in this story, spoiler alert, he actually is a person who suffers from Alzheimer's. And so his head's basically like in the clouds, like in here in this scene, it worked out. Like you think the whole time these are two people on a first date, and you realize like he thinks he's on a first date, but she, like, they have a whole history together. And again, Chris Heck wrote this amazing script, and he came up with this idea because he himself, when he approached the museum, he's like, I want to create stories that are honest about like the experience. So the Phoenix Art Museum actually had a program where they have people who suffer from Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia come, because art has been linked to being able to kind of connect those synapses that sometimes like become weak with Alzheimer's. So it's a therapy thing that helps these people sometimes remember. Yeah, triggers memories. Yeah. And that's something that the Phoenix Art Museum actually did. So Chris was like inspired by that and wrote a story around that idea.
Oh, so he literally went there, heard that they were doing that, and was like, hey, I want to do a story.
So it came like full circle.
Exactly.
That's legit. That's
yeah. Yeah.
And did he approach them? He was like, hey, I've got this. And what were they like? They're like,
oh yeah, no, they were an awesome client to work for, because they were just so, I mean, you're working for an art museum. So like they were so willing to like, you guys are artists. Yep. We get to curate art in this scenario. Rather than submitting this for television or something, we're going to submit these to festivals. Nice. Like that's the marketing thing.
How many have you submitted so far?
Oh, I mean, this is a while. This is like now 4 years old or something, so they went to several different festivals and like it did really well. Nice. This film got picked up by Short of the Week, Amuletto and stuff. Cool. Yeah. Nice. So, it's like,
that's great.
So they were very, this was one. We did another one called Represent, which Chris Heck directed. And then they did another one that was like a poem about the museum itself that a friend of mine, Miguel, he shot it with Chris Heck. And they did a fantastic job with that one too. And there were so many more we wish we could have done, but just, budget and stuff, we weren't able to. Yeah, but definitely. So
that's awesome.
Very different project.
Oh, I that's really cool. Love the story idea. It's kind of like where we're leaning on is our like our Posey series we're kind of working on. So it's like, you've got your commercial work. That's what, right? It puts food on your table and whatnot, and you get, some real stuff out of it. But like the Posey stuff for us is when we've done our work and we've got that free time and we've got that, we have some money in the bank to be like, okay, let's go do our own project, or let's go put some passion into what we really want to go tell some stories about. There's some interesting people out there. There's a ton of interesting people out there in the world, and I just want to hear their stories. Every single person has a different story and different outlook on what they do and how they perceive their own passions. So this Posey series is all about just passion and what people do. So you find really interesting people and just go do it. So we limited ourselves to 2 lights and 2 cameras.
Yeah.
We try to not pay attention to the budget.
No,
That's why we
we
try
just
to make it budget friendly.
find the best
two
story.
cameras, 2 lights, and creatively challenge ourselves to make the best thing possible.
Yeah, isn't that awesome though? Like to
And
like
it's so much fun.
Like take the choice away, and you have to get so much more creative,
Yeah.
and it can be so freeing.
It gives us full creativity and takes us away from the business, which because we're all, full time we're business, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think coming into this, you'd be creative, right? Well, you are, but that's why kind of Reelbros came to play. Like production companies are typically stale in the way that they present themselves in a way. So like the creativity would just be business oriented. And I didn't want that to be business only, right? We do a lot of business, but Reelbros is like creativity, right? We can put our whatever we want into it. It's our own business. We can do whatever we want. So be loud with our branding, be loud with what we want to do, and just have fun. So
I don't think I've ever met
interesting.
anyone in this industry that like I've met people who come from all sorts of different backgrounds, but I don't think I've met a single person who hasn't been like a creative soul in some way. Like every single one of them, from the PA to the producer, like, and even like people who like work in like the accounting side of it, like there is a certain passion for filmmaking, which is why they're a part of it.
Yep.
There is
really
a
cool.
certain
That's very
creativity
true.
there. So,
true.
And yeah, doing passion projects or personal projects, doing things aside from like just the paycheck, like is super important. And it's so hard sometimes because you can get so caught up
Lost
in
into it, yeah.
the paying work. Cause it's like, you got clients,
it.
you got the paying stuff, you got to pay for bills, or sometimes it can paying for a bill here means you can get that like pretty cool piece of equipment over there that's going to help you on some other project. So
My cart is endlessly long right now.
Oh yeah. I really need to try and get away. Like again, work with rental houses is like, I'd rather work with rental houses to get stuff. But there's like just things like, yeah, I mean, I started off as a kid in his like bedroom with like Legos, just making a film because that's what he wanted to do that day. And I try to hold on to that, I own some of my own equipment. I don't take it out as much as I wish I did, but that's usually because like, when you turn your passion into your career, it's kind of, sometimes you just need a break from it too.
Yeah.
But sometimes that break also just comes in the form of like, get together with your friends, get together with those collaborators you like working with.
Totally.
You don't have a budget, you don't have crew, you don't have anything.
Just have fun.
And then just see what happens. Like let yourselves be that creative self that you wish you could have been on that one creative agency project that just kept reminding you of all the things you weren't allowed to do.
Right. Instead of going spending your paycheck on it. Exactly. It's true. It's instead of going spending your paycheck at a bar or food or this trip or whatever, get together with your friends, bring some cameras and go create some cool shit.
Yeah, but also go out,
have
go
fun.
get food, have fun, go to bar, live life.
life.
Like, film is like such an awesome thing, and like my whole life is about it almost too much, and it's like you got to remind yourself like
you need to go snowboarding. That's what you need to
you
go
gotta
do.
go snowboarding.
So get out
you
there,
gotta
go snowboarding.
Yeah, you just got to get out there, experience life, experience the world, and let that factor into your art.
Because
let that
the more
factor into your
experience,
stories.
exactly. That's a perfect point, because if you go out there and experience more things, you're going to see different things. Right?
Yeah,
And
totally.
you're going to bring that stuff back into your work.
Right.
You're going to see the way like, oh, that's weird. That window's, catching that light in a certain way. Can I recreate that in a different way? Can I do this and that? You're going to learn so much. Just get out of your computer, get out of your camera, and just go look. Just
we
go
have
look, visualize.
cell phones in our pockets that take pretty decent photos these days. And I do
100%.
that all the time. If I see something, like people ask like, oh, where's your inspiration? Where do you get like ideas for like lighting setups and stuff from? I'm like, well, lighting setups are like the tools that you need to do something.
Correct.
But like what I'm looking for, you could pull up photo reference, video reference that, but like a lot of my stuff just comes from like reality. Like I was laying in bed at a midday nap and the light comes through like my sheer curtain, like in a certain way. And I'm like, oh, this looks awesome.
Yeah.
So I snap a photo on my
Saves that
iPhone
memory.
at the very least. Maybe I'll break out, the Canon A1 and snap a film photo and then see it weeks later.
Right.
And but like now you get to use that as like reference. You saw like what that looks like. You're like, oh, this created like a certain emotion in me, and you make note of that. And then when you have a project, you're like, oh, hey, actually, this would be like a cool way to do that. Yeah.
How do I do that? How do I recreate it? And that's where the problem solving comes into play. What tools do I have to make that exact thing that was in my room going through those curtains? How do I do that?
Yeah. I'm also like a complete nerd. And so it's like, I've recently started like, I carry my light meter and my color meter. I recently finally got a color meter, and like I keep it with me in my backpack all the time. And like now, like I'm at a restaurant or I'm just on the street,
That's
and I'm
legit.
like, hey, this like warm light coming through the window, but the contrast of the color from in here, because maybe it's like ambient sky or what's that ratio? Like what's that color ratio? And I like meter it out. Like my first AC was just like, dude, you're such a nerd.
But do you learn a lot from those experiences, like capturing that data,
it's
or what?
You learn from the experience, and it's just all like building up your personal library.
Sure. That's legit.
And
That's
I think
cool.
that's just super important, you know,
100%.
like whether you are a person who writes a script or whether you're a person who just like photographs a script, like find the things that you're interested in, find the things that you like, and start just building up this repertoire and keeping track of it all, you know? And sometimes it's like, I'll take a photo of a thing. I'll probably never look at it again, but just going through that ritualistic process of doing that kind of like burns it somewhere in my subconscious. So it's going to come out again eventually somewhere down the line, maybe for another project, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. And that's like, you know, like, last year was like crazy. I'm sure it was crazy for you guys. Like kind of like the year coming back from COVID and work was just like so busy.
Dude,
and I don't think we didn't get to travel anywhere.
All the work was coming here.
Yeah. My partner and I, we took like one trip, like, and we had to turn right back around for some totally unrelated reason. So like, you know, we didn't get to go anywhere and like travel anywhere and like going and doing that. Like, you know, like I would love to go to like, you know, Switzerland or something like that, where like the times of day are like just so different from here. Just seeing what that like looks like, you know, the
Getting
movie
out of the country, dude, is like that. It's one of my biggest things for people. Like if you can do it, go, please go. Cause you have no idea how different this world is.
Yeah. Just change the scenery, you know, and like we live in like Phoenix, Arizona, right? Which it's like, I take so for granted. Cause like I've been here for so long.
Right. It's a very cool place. It's
a super cool place. Not to me.
Yeah.
I'm so used. I'm like, oh God, I hate it. I hate the houses. I hate the light. I hate like the afternoon, like it's just like dirty feeling. You go to the afternoons in LA and you've got that marine layer and it just looks so pretty. And then out here, it's just like, oh God, it's just so dirty. You know, it's like, it's Breaking Bad all the time.
That's true.
And then you get people from out of state who come here and they're like, this is amazing. Like, you know, they're taking pictures of the Palo Verde trees and they're like, these are the coolest trees. I'm like, I fucking hate these trees. Palo Verdes are the worst. Mesquite trees are the worst. Their branches and stuff are so fine and weird. They just moire on the camera. It looks awful. I hate it. Right. And they're just like being like entranced by these things. And you have to remind yourself like, he has
this whole grudge against trees here. It's just like this whole like book. Like, I hate this tree. You tell a client, if there are any of these trees here, I'm out, dude.
I mean, actually, yes. I have had plenty of moments where I've been like, I hate this location. The only greenery is like these awful looking Palo Verde trees. And like, I don't like them. They do not fit the vibe.
That's awesome.
But you know, like you have to remind yourself like, oh yeah, like where you live is unique to somebody else. Like you can offer a unique perspective of like the place that you're at, but you know, then likewise go somewhere else. Like somewhere else that is like so inspirational to you where you're from could also be equally inspirational to somebody else.
Absolutely. And the pandemic opened those doors though for other people to realize what Arizona and their capabilities are. Like we've literally had clients here that are huge clients, like freaking Ferrari came here. Yeah. And they had no idea that Sedona looked like that, or they had no idea that the drive from here to Sedona or whatever. They just had no idea. They thought it was just a desert. So it opened up a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, a few times I heard a few DPs say like, man, we need to start doing some desert stuff more. Yeah. Or we need to start coming to the desert more.
Oh yeah, dude. People like coming out of state, like it was insane.
Especially during golden hour in like the moto crane.
Well, sunsets here are insane. Like
it just
can't really replicate them.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of times people come out here because of like the clear weather, but like every time they do that though, like I've worked on so many projects where like, all right, so the creative here is bright, sunny, happy summer. Right. And then like you go to shoot and it's freaking raining and it's like,
and like really, dude.
And then everyone's like, I thought Phoenix was like not supposed to be this. It's like, it's
monsoon season.
It's monsoon season. Or you just chose like the one day that like the weather like chooses to do this. It's like really consistent at screwing productions over in that regard.
Oh yeah. There's some that is saved though. Like Too Simple. We were doing a run out in what's that road out there at the park, South Mountain.
San Juan.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, San Juan, that road that everybody shoots at. We did a Too Simple run there with an 18-wheeler, and we were doing a big commercial for them. And
the lightning storm.
The storm started rolling in with a sunset. So you've got that big dark contrast, and you've got that high bright, just orange, just blending together, and it looked so insane, especially for this technology company. It just looks sick. Yeah. And then there's lightning, but then we're like, oh shit, wait, we have a giant lightning rod on our roof. We got to get the fuck. We got to get out of here.
Struck like 100 meters away from the camera car. And
and we're like, we gotta bail.
We should probably go.
We race out, but just like points like that, we didn't expect it to do that at all. But it was just unreal.
Yeah, like
it was unreal.
Like we were talking about earlier,
ways.
you know, are your collaborators, how the best work comes from the meeting of people. Mother Nature, one of the greatest collaborators that will
true, dude.
throw something new into the mix all the time. Like I always, if you've ever seen the old, 1960s film, Bonnie and Clyde, there's a scene towards the end of the film where like they get out of the car and they're like running into this field and like, there's this cloud that like moves over and starts to shadow the field. And that's like, they didn't fake that. Like there's no way, like that actually happened. They just got they just super lucked out. And it's like such a powerful shot in the film. You know, happy accidents as they call them, you know, as Conrad Howell used to call them. You know, but like, nature can totally like come in and like, I've had similar experiences where it's like,
you're like, whoa, dude, like you can't ever do that again.
Yeah, don't give me credit for this one.
Yeah.
You know, it all goes to her.
What do we say? What do we always say, guys? Lighting by God or lighting by
God.
DP God. Jesus Christ, dude. It's awesome. So, well, we're gonna wrap it up here.
Sure. Yeah.
We've been flying through it, and you've been killing it. So, a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
If you were to tell anybody though, some kid that's in school, community college, public, or whatever it is, and they're wanting to do kind of what you do on that scale, right? Not just TikTok and all this YouTube stuff, right? Like at your scale, what you're doing at national, you know, Arizona and national level, like what would be a good just kind of note for them?
You know nothing. Like relish in that. You know, everyone starts as the person who knows nothing. That's fine. Like, you know, especially in this industry, I feel like there's sometimes this pressure that you've got to prove yourself, especially when you're working with people who are like older or more experienced, or you see the things that are being done out there all the time and you're like new and you want to go in, you feel like you have to carve out a place for yourself. So you do that by like playing yourself up bigger than you actually are, or you try to like let everybody know how much you know, and maybe sometimes that helps, but like, honestly, like, it's okay to learn. I'm still learning. I learned so much. Like, you don't have to fully embrace like the journeyman styled apprenticeship that is the film industry. Like, I think it's super valuable. It's how I got into it. I was a PA for a long time. I was an AC. It's like a second AC. And then I was like a grip. And then I kind of followed that track. And then I came back to it. It got messy and complicated, but like, it just meant that I was working with awesome folks, awesome firsts, awesome gaffers, and then eventually awesome DPs that I was the gaffer for, and just like learning all that time.
Yep.
And now I'm a DP who works with directors that I get to learn from, producers I get to learn from, but I'm still learning from my gaffer. I'm still learning from my AC. Yep. I'm learning from other DPs.
That's the thing. People, I feel like, are too closed up with like everyone else and their look. Like, learn from everyone. Everyone's doing the same. Like, just learn. Well, everyone wants to talk too. Like, just have a conversation.
I think it's ego. There's like
100% ego.
This
100%.
industry. I mean, not just this. So many industries are about it, but like, ego is like a thing that like you're always kind of like working against. Like your own ego, other people's egos, like agencies' egos. Like that's learning how to navigate that, how to accept it, embrace it, and like let it be what it is. Like, I think that's an important skill to have. It's an important maturing process. Totally. But it all starts with like coming into the room and like accepting that you might not know the most about a certain thing. Actually, that's pretty sweet when you don't. Like, it's a pretty fun opportunity to like be surrounded by people who are so good at what they do that like, I mean, it could be intimidating, like you're like, oh my God, do I even belong here right now? But it's like, yeah, of course you do. You bring your own perspective. Like, you might not be the strongest, like, technical operator of this thing, but you still have your own unique perspective. You still have your own unique experiences. You still have your own taste. Like, that's what you have. Like, that's what you're bringing in at the end of the day, regardless of all this other stuff. Yeah, so, like, and so it's just me speaking from experience. Like, when I was like starting out, I was kind of like a little shit, man. Like, I was that kid who was in high school going up on, the internet and learning no film school and all that stuff. Yeah. And like, so I came in pretty hot. Like, I came in, like, I understood the basics. Sure. I would get a little annoyed when they'd be like, all right, here's how you wrap a stinger. I knew how to wrap a stinger, and then, but it was like, you know how to wrap a stinger.
Sure.
Let them show you how to wrap a stinger. Yeah. You're not showing, like, they're not actually showing you how to wrap a stinger. I mean, they are right? But what you're showing them is that you're willing to learn. Like that's I think the thing that I would say, like, if I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, like, dude, it's okay. Like, they're not calling you an idiot. They're not insulting your ego. They don't know anything about you. They're learning about you. And if you're going to like give them a hard time because they are willing to teach you something as menial and like nobody wants to teach somebody how to wrap a stinger, really. Like, come on. Like, that's not sexy. That's not cool. Like, it's kind of annoying. You just want to teach someone how to wrap a stinger so they don't screw up your stingers. Like, that's what they're doing. If someone's actually going out of their way to like try to help you by teaching you something small or simple, they're not insulting you. They're just trying to help. And this is an opportunity for you to tell them the most important thing you can about yourself, which is, I'm here. I'm willing to learn. I want to work with you.
Right.
So yeah, just, start simple, start small, start humble,
dude.
Because if you learn that now, you're going to use that for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And I think I learned that lesson a little too late, and it worked out. It worked out, but it's like, man,
Sure.
I wish somebody had told me like earlier on, like, dude, it's okay, man. Drop the ego. So,
no, dude, that's killer.
Awesome.
That's such a valid point to learn. And
Super.
That's awesome. Well, dude, hey, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's kind of our first one back with what we're doing right here. So this is a little different than we normally do it, but you murdered it. And this being your first podcast, I guess, legit one, I guess, except for an iPhone or whatever.
Yeah.
Murdered it, dude. And you took a lot of value and put it in there so people can listen to it and learn from what you did. So
yeah,
that's what this is about. We're having here to talk.
Definitely.
Talk and just learn. Yeah, that's all we're doing.
It's a lot of fun, you guys. Yeah.
So where can the people find you? Plug the socials.
Plug the socials. So,
the jazz.
You can find my work on my website, JacenSieversDP.com. My name is spelled funny. It's Jacen. From there, you can find all my socials, but my Twitter handle is the only one I don't have. Like, I don't do Twitter. Maybe I should start.
Hey, we don't do Twitter either.
But, Instagram at Jacen Sievers, so,
awesome.
But yeah, so
cool.
Heck yeah.
Well, thanks for stopping by, and
thanks for having me.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
See you guys on the next one.